Hello and welcome to the Strategies for Innovative Development case study video series. In these short videos, I share examples of how I have been able to work with leaders and their teams to build more innovative organisation cultures. I demonstrate how it's possible to use the Strategies for Innovative Development, or SID tool, to diagnose core issues, frame appropriate challenge questions, generate original ideas, and produce practical action plans for innovative change. I hope you enjoy the series. So this week I'm giving an example of a case study of an organisation that our company worked on that was very complex, and I think helps to reveal a lot of the challenges that you face when you're working on a client project and how you really need to dig deep to find out what is the core issue, how can we address this issue, what sort of tools can we use, how do we apply those tools. So what we're trying to do week by week is build up our knowledge and understanding of the capabilities that you need and the models and tools that will be useful to deal with each stage of a client project. So let's just think through this particular example. This was an Asian desk team, and stock traders work on desks, and so it's called a desk, even though they have separate desks, but it's a particular group of people that are supposed to be working together to achieve results for the company, but they're often individually incentivized. And in this case, there was a very toxic culture and people were highly competitive and very negative. And so we were called in to help identify what are the core issues and how can we improve the team culture to improve their performance, because it was impacting their results overall as a team. So what we did was we worked with this company to identify their needs, and we used what was called an empathy map. So an empathy map is a way of trying to understand what your end users are thinking, what they're feeling, what they're doing, what's important to them, so you can identify the core issues that need to be addressed. So we use this map, and I'll go through explaining this shortly. And that's what helped to uncover that the individuals were independently incentivized, and that's why they were so competitive, and that's why they were sort of bringing each other down, because they felt it was important to get their own bonuses and make sure they were successful so they progressed in their career, but it was at the expense of the team. So we tried to, from that initial insight into what their needs were, we tried to work on, well, what's a good solution? What's a collaborative team approach that we can take? So we worked out that we need to balance the need for individual responsibility with that need for team collaboration and commitment. So that's what we focused on through our solution focus. We used a simulation that helped to reveal typical behaviours. So we actually used a simulation that was an expedition to Antarctica, and Antarctic teams need to work together, need to collaborate to survive, or they die. They live and die together. So it was a great way of illustrating to this team that they really need to depend on each other more. They needed to have common goals and how that would impact the results as a team. So when they went through this simulation, we actually were able to draw up the patterns of communication between team members and identify where are the gaps, where's the negativity, where are the opportunities for people to communicate better with each other. And that helped to demonstrate visually what the issues were and how we could move forward. We then used what's called a stakeholder analysis tool to reveal how this team could improve their personal and interpersonal capabilities. And all the way through, we used the SID model. So at this point, we brought out the SID model and we said, now that we know what the issues are, how can we start to generate ideas that will help us find a solution? So again, I'm going to keep sort of repeating this over and over until it really sticks. but we identified what the problem statement was, what the ambiguity or the complexity or the challenge was, turned it into a solution-focused question, and then helped them to generate ideas, to brainstorm, to come up with ideas before we synthesized those ideas and narrowed them down to start to identify the best solution. The final stage was using an evaluation matrix to help us. Once we had a few solutions in mind that we thought were good, then this evaluation matrix helped us to narrow down, to prioritize, and to make decisions about the best solutions going forward. So that was really that culling process, that analysing process to say, well, this is what will work in effect. And the outcome was this team, as a result of this process, actually had a 300% improvement in their team results. And they were much happier, they were much more motivated, it was a much more positive experience for them. So a very, very worthwhile intervention with incredible outcomes. Let's practice using the SID tool again, the Strategies for Innovative Development, to show you how you can use the tool to unlock the particular challenges for this client and how we were able to come up with some useful solutions for them. So this is focusing on the issue of ensuring you have team engagement and collaboration while still, taking into account this need for individual incentives. So the problem statement is team members need to collaborate to get better results, but they are individually incentivized. So there's the complexity, there's the challenge. So the question is, there's your solution-focused question in your SCQA. How can we encourage team members to collaborate to get better results when they are individually incentivized? And there should be a question mark at the end of that because it's a question. So I'll just add that in. So how can we get team members to collaborate when they're individually incentivized? So let's just throw out some brainstorming ideas. What about, and these are the sorts of things that the client came up with when we did this brainstorming with them. How about team lunches, so we relax a bit more together? How about team holidays as an incentive? So instead of individual incentives, we get an incentive as a team. How about redesigning the office so that we can see each other better and we communicate better, work together better? How about we move people closer together so that their desks aren't spread apart? How about we remove the individual incentives? How about we have a weekend retreat? So you can see the sorts of ideas that were coming out. And this was this discovery phase. This is the ideation phase where you're brainstorming, where you're looking for diverse ideas and drawing on the diverse ideas of the group. And we're applying it here to improve engagement, team engagement. So this is where we then, let's assume you come up with a lot more ideas than that, but these are a few samples. Then the next step is to start synthesis. Before you come up with those ideas, you might want to think, there's a few good ideas, but we really need a lot more creative ideas. So how do we generate more ideas? And there's a tool that I mentioned last week called Parallel Worlds, which helps to stretch your thinking beyond the immediate solutions that you might come up with. So what this revolves around is thinking about where you can find a great example outside of the industry. So we're not looking at the best stockbrokers, we're looking at any industry. Where's the best example of collaboration? So we're trying to find, who collaborates really well. And that's called the best in world. So who solves this challenge well? Okay, I'm going to give you an example of a team, and you might not have thought about this before, but there's a great video that I'll show you quickly. And it's a Formula One team. I don't know if you've seen the maintenance teams when the Formula One car pulls into the pits. So it's called the pit team, and they have to change the tires. They have to, check all the equipment's working, and they have to do it at super fast speed. So let me show you how they've been able to progress that through an example. So I've got the Formula One team as an example of the best in the world. They're very, very fast, very collaborative. And here's the video to show you how they work in practice. So you'll see the 1950s version and how much slower they were, and then how much they've sped up this decade.
Stop. Time to refuel and change tires. Lou Moore himself changes the tires. Only 4 crew members, including the driver, are allowed to work on the car. It's a tense time. Holland stays in his seat, anxious to get away. Let's watch.
This actually goes on for a while. You can see how each of them has a role and they're working well together, but it's a slow process. So this is how much they've improved this team process and enabled them to collaborate better. I'm just going to fast forward it. So this keeps going, and then...
A crewman polishes the windshield as Holland moves away just 67 seconds after he stops.
So 67 seconds. And then this is this decade. Okay, that's it. Just like 1/10 of a second. It's really fast. And I find that sort of a fascinating example of how you can make a team really highly efficient and collaborative. So how do you use that information then to improve your ideation? So let's take that example, the Formula One pit crew. Principles, I'm just pulling up the chat window again in case anyone needs to ask me. So what are the principles? Can you pop in the chat window what makes them so effective as a collaborative team? A few principles. What are the ideas? How are they able to be so effective? Great. Defining each person's role. They know exactly what they're doing. They're very clear. They're able to get to work, and very clear division of those roles, division of works. The tasks are appropriately allocated, so the best people in the best job. They probably had this improvement of the process, a process review, and they probably said, oh, what can we do better? How can we improve what we do? How can we make sure that our team is maximised? So you can see how these sorts of things can be valuable principles to learn. So I'm just going to put there clear roles, which is what you brought up. Maybe respect for each other's roles too, because you don't go and take over somebody else's role and say, I can do that better. You don't micromanage, you trust people to do their roles. They have good systems in place, so they're clear about who's doing what at what time and how it's going to work. So this should help you, when you pull back to the core principles, this should help you to generate some new ideas. So think about the stockbroker team. How could understanding a Formula One pit crew help them to improve their own collaboration? Well, perhaps they could make sure their roles are clearer. So maybe they could have a team charter in which they talk through what's important to us, what are our values, what are our goals, what will we agree on, what sort of behaviours and actions will we agree on. Maybe they should divide their roles more clearly so everybody knows who's responsible for what. And that gives you an idea. Can you see how that helps to generate some more ideas? And we'll add those to the main chart in a minute. So we've got 2 new ideas that we can add to our brainstorming by stretching the thinking. Let's try it by applying it with expedition teams, because I've already mentioned as another example of very high functioning, high performing teams, because they have to do it for survival. And so think about a team that goes to Antarctica. What are the principles that makes them work well? Can you drop some things in the chat window? What makes an Antarctic expedition team perform well? mutual support and respect. Absolutely. You know why? Because they have to rely on each other. So they can't just sort of go ahead and do their own thing. They really need each other to make sure they survive, and therefore they respect and trust. Exactly. Trust each other to get over a crevice, or to get through a snowstorm, or to make sure the tent gets put up correctly. They can't do it on their own. They have to trust the person who's on the other side of the tent, that they're doing their job. They might have to trust the navigator to make sure that they're leading them in the right direction. So there's many, many examples where there has to be that deep trust. Preparation, yes. So they prepare really well. Again, it could be about allocation of roles and understanding those roles and making sure you prepared all the details. There's all that follow through. So I've just jotted down a couple of ideas on this chart. I put there, you've got this strong purpose, very clear goals, and very clear sort of commitment, because you need to survive and you're trying to reach this end goal. That should say shared goals. And goals focused. So it's all about the goals itself. So how might this impact a stockbroker team? Well, maybe they need a clearer vision. Maybe they need to write a vision or mission statement that's going to help them to feel connected and help them to feel, oh yes, that's why we're doing this job, because we believe in this outcome and we want to reach this outcome together. Just a very quick example I'll show you of why this is so important, from a lady that we've worked with when we run this simulation, and she helps to explain how you actually rely on each other completely to get the best results as a team, because you can't get through this as an individual.
I just want to talk a little bit about team bonding and how important it is for your team to share common goals and objectives and to look out for each other. An example of this on the ice is often you get frost nip on your exposed areas of the face. And this is when your skin freezes. This is pre-frostbite. And this often happens when you're out all the time because you've got these bits exposed. And you're reliant on your team members to actually tell you when this is happening on your face, when it's going white, because you can't actually feel it yourself. So it's imperative that you check with each other how you're going. I often rate it on 1 to 10. How people are feeling in the team, and then how they're feeling on the ice. Always talk to each other before you leave. How are you feeling? Because people's problems are not necessarily just their own. It's relevant to the whole team.
All right, so I'm just going to pull it out there. I think you get the point that, the individual impacts the whole team. Everybody has to look out for each other. You need to communicate well. You need to care about the other individuals, support them better. And you need to do all that to survive. So you need to have those common goals. And so you can learn a lot from an expedition team about the importance of collaboration. So if you think about, how you apply this tool, then as I mentioned, this can contribute new ideas that can then go on the chart. So you might have some ideas that you add to your team chart. You might think about individual coaching to support people better. You might think about a team workshop to make sure everyone's developing the same goals and so on. And then you can pull everything together. So how about having a team charter where you divide the roles more clearly, you set a clear vision and shared goals. So you're pulling together all of those ideas, or synthesizing the information and converging on the ideas to come up with the best possible solutions. Or how about having a collaboration workshop where you spend time redesigning the office and ensuring that people have work in closer proximity, and that can be a weekend retreat. So see how you can start to pull together these diverse ideas, and we're calling it here separate and connect, in order to highlight the best solutions and to really build on the best ideas and to narrow down what you can do moving forward. So they did have a collaboration workshop. They worked on redesigning the office. They developed a team charter, and all of that helped them to improve by 300%. So you can see how this process can be really powerful.